In and out of school literacy, the big project. For my practicum this semester, I was placed in Mr. Tisoco's third grade dual language classroom at Carborough Elementary School. Carborough Elementary School is a community-based elementary school that is within walking distance for majority of its students. The school is actually located in the middle of a neighborhood and is approximately 2 to 3 miles from the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill. It is a school with very high parent involvement and a very successful PTA. Half of all of the classrooms at Carborough are dual language classrooms. Dual language is a form of bilingual education in which students are taught literacy and content in two languages. In third grade dual language classrooms at Carborough, half of the day is conducted in English and the other half is conducted in Spanish. Mr. Tisoco's class is a dual language classroom. The first half of the day is Spanish, math, and science instruction in Spanish, and the second half of the day is writing, reading, and social studies, but taught in English. Walking into Mr. Tisoco's class on the first day, the first thing that I noticed was that the lights were off and all of the students were sitting on the carpet in front of the smartboard. This is because for instruction and lecture, Mr. Tisoco has his students come to their assigned spots on the carpet and then go back to the tables to do work, whether that be individually or in groups. Once the lights were back on, my attention was immediately drawn back to the carpet that the students had previously been sitting on. It was very bright and colorful, taking up most of the space in the room. The carpet allows for a common space in the room where all of the students can come together, fostering a classroom community. The class also comes to the carpet to present their work to the class. Presenting to the class gives students an opportunity to share their accomplishments, practice public speaking, and to gain confidence socially and academically. According to Flint in Literate Lives, literacy is not simply learning a certain set of skills, such as reading and writing. Literacy is also about learning how to be socialized into particular social practices in particular settings. Students need to know how to discuss their ideas and share their work in a group setting. It is also important that they learn how to write down and present their ideas to others. When the students are at the carpet or at their desk, Mr. Tisoco expects the students to raise their hands for discussion and to ask questions during class. Oftentimes, however, he will ask students to turn and talk to their neighbor about a question that he asks. The organization of the classroom fosters group work and allows students to move throughout the day. The carpet and the smartboard are at the center of the room and the tables surround them. There are 5 tables around the carpet that the students sit at. Each table seats 4 to 5 students. On each table is a bin with school supplies that are always available for the students to use. This includes pencils, pens, markers, glue sticks, and scissors. These group tables allow students to work together and collaborate on their assignments. Working in groups fosters peer-to-peer interaction, social development, and literacy throughout the day. All students are expected to contribute and participate in literary practices every day. In the back of the classroom, Mr. Tisoco has shelves and shelves of books in his classroom library. There are hundreds of books, all separated by genre, author, and reading level. In front of the shelves of books are 2 large carpet squares where students can sit or lie down to read during personal reading time in the morning or afternoon. The books are easily accessible, divided by their categories into plastic bins on the shelves. This side of the room promotes literacy by giving students a space designated only for reading and giving them many options to choose from. The hours when I was in Mr. Tisoco's class were spent doing Spanish lessons and sciences, both taught in Spanish. Because it is a dual language classroom, Mr. Tisoco has more ELL students than the average teacher. In the text, Flint says that primary language support is validation of child's language and culture, which facilitates self-esteem to be maintained, stress to be reduced, and education to be a positive experience as access to the core curriculum provided. Mr. Tisoco keeps Spanish and English books in his classroom library to promote dual language. My partner and I participated in a dialogic read aloud with the students of Mr. Tisoco's class. We brought the students to the carpet and read The Keeping Quilt by Patricia Polacco. Previous to the read aloud, Mr. Tisoco asked us if we would choose a personal narrative to read in the class, since that's what they were studying. Before we began reading, we went over some key vocab and words that the students may not know the meaning of. This was so that the students would be able to have a deeper understanding of the text once we began reading. Because the characters in the book have Russian lineage, we asked the students if they knew where Russia was and then showed them where it was located. In order to participate in the read aloud, students had to be able to be active listeners as we read the book. Bringing cultural diversity to the classroom while still relating the text to the students' lives is extremely important. During the read aloud, we encouraged students to interact with the text as it was being read, stopping at particular points for discussion and conversation. We were pleasantly surprised at the amount of enthusiasm and participation that the students had for our read aloud. According to Flint, by reading aloud, a child's brain is conditioned to associate reading with pleasure, their background knowledge and experiences are enhanced, Their storehouse of experiences are increased by hearing about people, places, and events that are not a part of their lives. Vocabulary development is strengthened. Fluent reading is modeled by a more capable reader. New forms of language, styles, and sentence structures are introduced, and ideas for their own writing and storytelling are provided. Many of the questions that my partner and I asked during our read aloud were about the students' personal experiences, such as if they had any traditions or heirlooms like their families, as in the keeping quilt. This encourages students to make connections from the text into their own lives. Making these connections is defined in Flint's text as intertextuality, or the process of constructing links between the text and one's experiences to other texts or to outside knowledge. For the out-of-school portion of the literacy project, I interviewed an ELL student in my class named Gerardo who goes by Jerry. My interview with Jerry was one-on-one in the library where I learned about his experiences with literacy and his literacy community outside of Carrboro. He lives with his parents, his grandmother, his two older sisters, and his little brother. His parents and grandmother speak hardly any English, so they only speak Spanish at home. He used to live in Carrboro, and he used to walk to school, but then his family moved to Chapel Hill last year. He is now a car rider. When I asked Jerry who helps him with his reading and writing, he responded that he either asked the teacher or a classmate. I asked him about who helps him out at home, and he said that one of his sisters does because his parents do not speak English. He did say, however, that his parents read to him often, always in Spanish. He also said that he knows some children's books in both English and Spanish because he has the Spanish translation at home and has read the English at school. I asked Jerry why he thought reading was important, and he responded that you need to know it so you can find out information. The example that he used was, if you ask, what does sharks eat? You can read a book or read online, and then you can find out what sharks eat. When Jerry's struggling with his reading at home, and there isn't anyone around who can help him, he said that he puts his finger under the word, sounds out the letters, and sometimes looks at the words around it to see if he can figure it out. He doesn't typically read at home unless his parents are reading to him or if he has homework. Outside of school, Jerry spends a lot of his time either at home or playing soccer. He told me that he plays with his siblings often, but that he is on a soccer team, and that is the Rainbow Soccer League in Chapel Hill. Several of his classmates also participate in Rainbow Soccer. Because both his parents do not speak English and only Spanish is used in his home, Jerry has to code switch when he is doing homework in English but has to ask his parents or sisters questions in Spanish. Flint states that to code switch is to use the pattern of language that is appropriate for the time, place, audience, and purpose. Even when he's not reading at home, Jerry is still using oral literacy to communicate with his friends, family, and teammates. He also encounters different forms of literacy every day, whether it be written, technological, or oral. These different encounters may include the internet, signs, advertisements, the radio, television, casual conversation, video games, and even a cheer on the soccer field. My experience in Mr. Chisoko's class was a short but very memorable one that I very much enjoyed. It was such a wonderful time getting to experience an actual classroom firsthand with an age group that I wasn't completely familiar with. It was super fascinating to be able to see how an actual classroom is run. Reflecting on my practicum, I am so thankful to have had the opportunity to learn how to organize a classroom and how students behave in class. It was absolutely fascinating to observe all of the different learning styles and techniques that all of the students had and that Mr. Chisoko managed to cater to and teach. With these new findings and experiences under my belt, I look forward to my placement for next semester that will open up even more experiences for me.